go, so it's time for my 1,000 subscriber Q&A. Woohoo! Woohoo! Thank you for everyone who sent in a question. Let's get going. I'm going to try and do it all in one video. Hopefully it won't be too long. We'll see. So firstly, kicking off with a question from Angelica at Mercury Calling is, what would your perfect day be? And as this is booktube, of course I'm going to say reading a book. Like, if I had a whole day where I could just read a book, that's probably my perfect day. I used to do this on Christmas Day. I used to get my book in the morning and then I would just read it, and Christmas Day was fantastic. I don't do that anymore, but I should. But yeah, I don't often get the chance to just have a day of reading, so that would be the ideal, really. Stephanie at That's What She Read asked, what is my go-to comfort food? I had trouble answering this actually because I've just recently, well, I say recently, it's been about 5 months now, become vegan, so obviously my comfort foods have very much changed, whereas it used to be like cheese and like creamy pasta and stuff. Now it's more like, I'd say my go-to is sort of a beanie chili because it's easy, it's comforting, it's filling, and it's scrummy yum yum yum. But yeah, I don't really have, I'm still changing what my comfort foods are, so at the moment I'm transitioning. And she also asked, what is my celebrity crush? At the moment I'm obsessed with Ben Whishaw. I'll leave a picture of him somewhere. If you haven't seen him, then admire the beauty that is. Also, I will link a video down below which I watched just to warn myself that there are people that look like him in the world. I will link that down below because it makes me very happy. Gina Thomas asked, what inspired you to start BookTube? I think it's the same story as a lot of people. I started watching BookTube and then thought, do you know what, I'm just gonna do my own videos. I've actually been on BookTube for a lot longer than I think a lot of people realise, but I used to do it literally like I would do a video a month. It's only in the past year really that I've properly funneled my efforts into this. And started reaping rewards with all my lovely new friends. But yeah, I've been on BookTube actually for about coming up for 3 years, which is bizarre when I consider it, because I really didn't, it wasn't a thing really before. I was literally just making videos, as I say, not even every month. So yeah, really it was just watching people and thinking that I could make something. Also, I suppose the same old thing that a lot of people say, I didn't have anyone in my real life that actually read or that would listen to me rant about books. Or if they did listen, you could just see the vacant look in their eyes. So it was kind of a desire as well to get a friendship group where I could talk about books and where we could exchange our ideas. Sandra Reese asked, which book am I proud/surprised to have read at a young age that really had an effect on me? Now this was a difficult one as well because my reading, I very much consider it in two sections. Like, I've always been an avid reader, but when I was a child and even a teenager, like my teenage years were probably my formative reading years, but I would say that my reading tastes have really developed since I've been sort of 20 plus. So a lot of the books that I read as a teenager/child didn't have any effect on me because I was purely reading. I just read everything. I read indiscriminately. I read everything, and I wasn't a rereader. I wasn't one to have favourite books really. So there's kind of that. I would say one that really did affect me when I was younger was The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, which I have not got out of the bookshelf because laziness. That really was the first book I probably read where I was like, this is written about me. And I reread that, I think 3 times I've reread that now. So that was one that very much spoke to me. But in terms of one that I'm proud to have read at a very young age, it wasn't so young. I think I was 18 when I read this, possibly 17, and that was William Burroughs' Naked Lunch. Now, I say I'm proud to have read this because I couldn't read this now if I tried, and I have tried since to reread it, and it's just the most messed up, bizarre, plotless, just snippets. It's just completely insanity in a book. And I was actually on holiday at the time, and I was going through quite a dark stage in my life and reading like quite a few dark books, and this was one of them, and it very much formed, I mean, this formed my writing life for at least a year. I was just obsessed with writing like William Burroughs and sort of the conversational bizarre style. It just really, it's a book that really shaped my writing for a very long time. Not anymore, I wouldn't say, but I think I'm really proud to have read it because looking at it now, it's just like, this is a really daunting text, even for somebody of my age, so to have read this when I was 17 is quite an achievement. Stephen at the Lawn Gnome asked, when did you realise you were reading like mad? I can see what you did there. I like it. I would say, as I have said before, I was always a avid reader from a very young age. I sort of took a break, as I think a lot of people do, when I was a teenager, so sort of there was about a year or two where I didn't read much at all. But generally, yes, I've been a really avid reader, but I would say the time that I realised that it really was like a massive thing in my life was when I was about 19 and I started then really reading regularly and reading at least a book a week. I mean, that seems like nothing to me now, but at the time it was a big thing and people sort of were like, you read a book a week? What is this? And I realised as well that it started affecting my relationships because I was like, I can't talk to you, I've got to finish this to get on my book a week done, sorry. Life. It's only got worse. It's only got worse since. And he also said, if I were to decide to stop making videos, what legacy would I like to leave behind? It's actually something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, the people stopping videos, because it makes me sad to think that we won't always make these videos, because it's kind of like, this is my friendship group in a lot of ways. And it would be really upsetting not to make videos anymore, but I'm sure at some point in my life it's not going to be practical. Like, I'm sure I won't still be making these videos when I'm 50. I think the legacy I would like to leave behind is just that she had fun and she read a lot of things. And maybe to get people to discover new favourite books would be fantastic. And Stephen also asked about my hobbies / interests outside of BookTube. To be honest, reading is the major part of my life. I write as well. I'm at the moment a full-time writer, so I'll sort of write till 5 o'clock or gone, and then I will spend my evenings reading, because I do like to get quite a lot read so that I can do some good reviews for you guys. In terms of my other life outside of that, I have house rabbits, which I would be interested in making videos about. I have made one which I will link down below, but I don't think people are really interested, or if you've got rabbits you'll be interested, but other than that I don't know that people care. And also my writing, but again I don't think, unless people are particularly writers, that they really watch those videos. I have done a few on my writing which I will link down below. I did a day in the life of my writing self. So yeah, and Brita Bowler also asked actually what's my sort of work situation. So I'm currently unemployed and I've decided to take a bit of a sabbatical from working because I have some savings saved up. I worked for 5 years full time. So I've got some savings to live off at the moment, and I'm focusing on my writing because I think this is the time to do that. And when my savings run out, then I will see about getting a proper job. But at the moment, yeah, full-time writing and making videos and reading all the things, and I'm living quite a good life at the minute. I'm not going to lie about it, not going to lie. Michael Duggan asked, what is the first book I read that made me want to read more? Because I didn't have really favourites when I was a kid, and I didn't get all hyped on the Harry Potter bandwagon or anything like that. There wasn't really a specific book that made me want to read more. It was just a general desire in me. I didn't really have any favourite series or anything like that. I used to like the Michael Moore Pugo books. I used to like the Animal Ark books. I used to love books about animals, horses, dolphins, anything. But there wasn't a specific book that set me out on my reading journey. It's just innate in me. Christy at One Book More asked, what is my favourite breakfast food? At the moment it's just plain toast with vegan margarine on. I did go through a stage of majorly being into jam on toast, but I got ill, and ever since I haven't been able to stomach jam. It's just been too sweet for me, which is really sad because that was like everything to me for a while. So yeah, just a plain slice of toast with some vegan margarine on it. And she also asked, what is a book you wish everyone would read? Now, predominantly I was going to say The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber, because what a book. But actually I think there's a certain, some people might not enjoy that, so it's not a universal. So I have gone for The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, because everyone should read this. Like, I can't even see how anyone would not like this. I'm gonna be honest, it's so good. So good. Ruby Marie and Simon from Savage Reads asked, when and where do I read? I read in the evenings. I generally have my dinner, and about 6 o'clock, 6:30, I will sit down and read properly. That's if my writing's gone well. Sometimes I won't get the chance to do that because I will still be writing in the evening. What I do, I've got a little routine. I've got a chair just here, I don't know if you can see it, next to my bookshelf. So I will sit there until EastEnders is on and I will read in that chair for about an hour or two. Then I will watch EastEnders and then I will lie on my bed and read for the rest of the evening. Sometimes I might put a film on or something, that's why I like to lie over there. So yeah, I like to mix it up. I don't particularly have a favourite reading place. I do like that chair though. Lauren at Lauren in the Books asked the hardest question in hindsight, Lauren, thanks. That was, if you could put any book in a time capsule to represent you and the time you were living in, what would it be? Everything I could think of was either irrelevant to the time I'm living in or, like, I don't know, not relevant to me. So I've gone for a cop-out and I've decided that I would put John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath in there because even though it's not set in the present day, I think there are so many issues in there that need to still be considered in the present day and will probably still need to be considered in the future, sadly. Yeah, I'm just going to go with that one, Lauren, because I couldn't even, like, I was just looking at my shelf like, I don't know. Leanne at Leanne Rose asked, what was the last TV show I binge watched and why did I enjoy it so much? I actually binge watched Fleabag, which is a drama / comedy kind of thing that was on BBC iPlayer. I haven't watched The Girls, but I have a feeling it's kind of in the same vein. There was kind of feminist themes in there and it's basically looking at a woman who something bad has happened to her and it's looking at the way she falls apart and the way women fall apart and sort of the way she views sex and things like that, and it was on point. It was so on point, like it made me feel better about life. You know, when you just find a show that you're just like, this makes everything make sense. Like, that was it, like it was just after my relationship broke down and that completely covered me. I'm also currently rewatching The Hills because I am reliving my teen life. When I was about 16, I dropped out of college and didn't have a job and I used to just stay up all night watching The Hills. My parents have gone away on holiday this week, so I've been just watching The Hills. What can I say? The Hills, for those of you who don't know, is like the original Only Way is Essex made in Chelsea kind of. It's much more pure though, I'm finding. Like, I don't like that kind of show. I find that they're vapid and they just consume you. The Hills it's vapid, I'm not gonna lie about it, but there's just something really good about it and it's nice because the episodes are only like 20 minutes long and like the dramas in it are so simplistic and it's fun and it kind of makes you feel better, and there are some really good quotes in there that formed my teenage years and my teenage relationships, and you don't get quotes like that in Made in Chelsea and The Only Way is Essex. I'm just saying. Katie at Books and Things asked what is my favourite story that I've written, because I asked her that on her video. Sneaky. So this is a hard one as well because it changes all the time. Like, I write stories and I like them for about a day and then I can't stand them anymore. But as it stands, I think probably one of my favourites is Hearts and Balloons, which is a story I wrote about first love, and it's where the girl's heart quite literally becomes a balloon and she sort of has to depend upon the man to carry her around and look after her, and obviously it's first love and things don't go well for her and she sort of learns a hard lesson in letting yourself get too carried away with a relationship. I do like it, but I'm sort of in the stage where I'm going off it a bit. But yeah, it changes all the time. She also asked what specific things appeal to me in writing. I would say predominantly poetic, beautiful language that sort of breaks boundaries, and also I think for me truthfulness in writing, and writing that is really relatable and sort of speaks about things that wouldn't particularly be spoken about normally. I love that in writing. I love when writing puts into words something that I possibly felt but didn't vocalise myself because it's not the norm or whatever. Like, I love that. So yeah, but predominantly beautiful writing will do it for me. I Am Broke asked some really good questions, but for the sake of cutting down, I'm only going to pick 3 of them, I'm afraid, but I picked out the ones that I think are the ones that I've least spoken about. One was, what are your thoughts on unnecessary sequels / continuations of series? I don't like series. I really come to this decision recently that I don't like them. I think a lot of the problem for me is that I don't like to binge read. I find that where I start at a series, by the time I come to the end of that series, it's like 3 years later, and I'm not in that place anymore. Like, I'm having that problem with The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare at the moment. I don't think there's anything that I've really ever found worked better as a series. I think everything could be a standalone. The series that probably I enjoyed the most was the Chaos Walking trilogy, but even then I don't know if it particularly needed that many. Like, I think it could have been kind of more condensed. And also, what is the most expensive book you own / was it worth it? I'm not one to buy really expensive books, but the most expensive by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. This was a quite big deal when it came out. I haven't read it yet, but it's like it's kind of like an adventure book. So it's set out like it's a library book. So you've got like, and then inside, not only has it got a story, but it's also got annotations that people have been making, and it's this, I believe, a boy and a girl who've been making annotations to each other, and they also have been leaving each other letters and things. Now, realistically, in the library, I don't think this would work. Like, I don't think it would happen. But there's all sorts of things in here, and this was £30, and I'm really desperate to get to it. Like, I've not actually heard a good review about it. I think this is very much about the production, but I think this would be a really good book. I mean, look, it's got postcards in. I think this would be a really good book to go through with a friend, and sort of, I think the criticisms I've heard of this are that the 2-story thing was too much, like you're trying to read the main story and the annotations and it just gets a bit. So I think this would be a good one to go through with like a friend or a partner or something and just have fun with it. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting to it, and I do need to get to it. But yeah, that was £30, and that's probably the most I've spent on a book. But I just think it's such a unique, lovely idea that it was worth it, and I'm very much looking forward to getting to it eventually. And then finally, the question that I've picked is, how do you plan your stories / novels? I'm a pantser, I don't plan. With my stories, I will generally start out with a first line. First lines always come to me first, funnily enough. I very rarely move those first lines, or if I do, I will still have them very close to the front. I have spoken before about my love of a good first line. So yeah, my stories always normally start with a first line, which will be just some bizarre idea. Like, one of my first lines is, Beatrice didn't mean to eat herself. Isla didn't realise a heart could become a balloon until it happened to hers. Like, I always get, and a lot of the time I'll just be led in bed and I'll get this jolt of a first line, and that will be about the sum of my planning. I might kind of, as I'm writing, try and sort of move the story forward, sometimes with a few bullet points, but generally I don't plan that much with my short stories especially. I generally do, at the moment, write out longhand first and then type it up on the computer, so I suppose you could say the longhand writing out is kind of my planning, because I don't put any pressure on myself for that. It's literally just my ideas as I think them. In terms of my novels, I haven't yet finished a novel. Nearly though, I'm on the home stretch for my first kids novel. And generally I'm finding what I do is I kind of plan as I go along, again, like with my stories, but what I'm finding is that the first draft is kind of the plan for me, and then it'll be quite bare bones minimum and just getting me towards the end point, and then I will go back and flesh it out, which I think is opposite to how a lot of writers work, to be honest. From what I've heard, that it's generally a process of cutting it down, but for me, I do go bare bones, belly to the floor, and then I will go back and flesh it out. So that's my planning process. Crystal at Crystal Lynn asked, who is my writing inspiration? For that, it's got to be John McGregor, or recently Karen Russell, because everyone knows my love for John McGregor. Let's not forget the beauty that was If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things. But I've also become quite obsessed with Karen Russell since reading Vampires in the Lemon Grove. I think there's something she does with language that just kind of takes it to that next level that is like the ultimate goal when you're writing a short story. It is so good. And she also asked, what book do I wish I had written? Well, it's got to be If Nobody Speaks of Remarkable Things, obviously, or alternatively, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers, purely because I think that book was such a formative book in terms of my reading taste, and it's such an amazing book, and she was 22 years old. Like, if I could have written like that at 22 years old, if I could write like that when I was 50, I'd be happy. But she was 22 years old when she wrote that book. Like, if you haven't read it, you need to, because it is just spectacular. And she also asked me what house I'm in at Hogwarts, and I actually went and did a sorting test on Pottermore for this, because I got your back, Crystal. And I am a Hufflepuff. I don't know what that means. I think I like the idea of being a Hufflepuff. I've never really known what house I'm in Harry Potter, so it's interesting to know. At least now I have that as a point of reference, because I'm sure that will come up at some point. And she also asked, what character am I most like? This was hard. I actually realised I'm quite bad at remembering characters, and I think I read so many books that characters get thrown by the wayside. But I did read The Edible Woman recently, and I think at the moment I'm kind of like Marion from The Edible Woman. I just want to eat myself. Yeah. So that was all the questions. I'm going to try and not make this too long. I think I've been filming for about 40 minutes, so we'll see. We'll see. But thank you again for all the questions, and feel free to ask some more down below and I'll happily answer whatever. Bye.